Yo, what's going on, Kicks Army? Today I'll be showing you guys how to draw the Nike KD 11 step by step. The initial part of the video is going to be the step-by-step tutorial showing you guys how it's drawn. Afterward, I'm going to be doing the outlining of those lines, and then finally I'm going to be coloring everything in. Now, after I do talk about the drawing process of the sneaker, I'll be going over some art tips, and we definitely need to discuss the kerfuffle that went on last night between the Lakers and the Rockets. Now, if you guys enjoy these daily sneaker drawing videos and basketball discussions, make sure you hit the like button, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and bounce past that bell to get post notifications. More importantly, don't forget that this stencil, along with all the other stencils that you see in any one of my videos, are available on my website, KicksArt.com. That is your #1 source for free sneaker stencils, and the best part is that there's a stencil that you want to see added to the website that's not already available. You can send in your request through the contact tab at the top of the page. Now, with that being said, let's get it. Start off, we gotta draw our guidelines to make sure the shoe that we draw is proportionally correct. To do this, we're gonna draw two squares right next to each other. After, we're gonna divide those two squares into top and bottom halves. Next, we're gonna add two vertical lines, one on that bottom right hand quadrant and the second one on the initial left box. Finally, we're gonna add one more horizontal line, dividing the two bottom quadrants into halves, and this will give us all the guidelines we need to draw out the rest of the sneaker. When it comes to drawing sneakers, I prefer to draw the outline, the silhouette of the sneaker first, because I feel like it's much easier to get the inside details once we have that outline going. Because this is a low top sneaker, we see that these outlines fit within the parameters of the guidelines very well. When it comes to the inside details, the first thing we're going to start working on is the outsole, and especially for the outsole, you want to use that last horizontal line that we made as your guide. Once the outsole is completed, we're going to start working on that rear panel. Notice how it has that curvy section that has the circle right in the middle of those crosshairs in that initial left hand box. Next, we're going to start working on the panel that's more towards the toe of the shoe. That is going to have the Nike swoosh inside of it. And again, with that Nike swoosh, look at that horizontal line and look at how it's placed. And you guys can alter these swooshes or any of these logos to make sure it looks good. Now we're going to start working on some of the detail for the sock liner, and because the sock liner for this particular model isn't exactly something that's very static and rigid, you can kind of play around with it to suit your needs. Next, we're going to start working on the lacing system, and before we actually fill in the laces, we're going to add the lace loops that the laces go in between. Once you have the 5 of them spaced out evenly, you can go ahead and start filling in those laces one on top of the other. We're going to see two small rectangles that are going to symbolize the stitching right underneath the two front lace loops. Finally, we're going to add the KD logo that's going to be on that panel towards the heel, and then once you have that in, you are done. The shoe is complete. This next part is going to be me going over all these lines with the micron marker. If you can't find these markers, or if they're a little bit outside of your guys' budget, you can always go ahead and use ultrafine black Sharpies. That works as well. I say this a million times, but I prefer the micron markers because they come available in different widths. So if you're trying to get really fine detail like stitching and perforations, you can use the 0.20 millimeter, but what I normally use for my outlining is the 0.45 millimeter. Basically, as long as you're not using a regular Sharpie that's like really fat and dull, you're pretty much gonna be fine. Like, even if you want to use a ballpoint pen, or bonus points if you have a black gel pen, that will work just all the same. Now, once I go through everything and I feel like I have all the black lines that I need, then I'm gonna erase the extra pencil marks that I have. And one thing too is, whenever you're doing the actual drawing of these sneakers, you don't want to press down with your pencil too hard on the piece of paper, because ultimately you're going to be going over those lines anyway, and or you're going to be erasing them. As you know, if you press down hard with the pencil on the sheet of paper, and if it's a line that you're not going to keep, or if it's a line that you can't conceal because you're not going to be going over it with the marker, maybe it was too far in, too far out, whatever, if you try to erase it because you press down really hard on it, it's going to be not that easy to get off because it's still going to have some of that smudge on there. So make your life much easier by, being very soft, gentle with your lines whenever you're doing the pencil stage. So that way, if there's a point where you have to erase, it's going to be very easy to come off. Or you can be just a complete savage and almost rip the sheet of paper with how hard you're pressing down with the pencil. It's your art, do whatever you want, I'm just saying. Now, before I get into some basketball discussions, I will have to say for this particular shoe, in terms of the model itself, I'm not really that big of a fan. Now, certain colorways look good, I'm not gonna lie. For example, with this Warriors colorway, I think it works really well. It has that deep blue and it has a few accents of that yellow that works perfectly. If you were to flip the two colors around, where it's mostly yellow and then it has accents of deep blue, I don't think it would look that good at all. And I've seen other colorways that I personally feel like didn't work too well either. I'm not the people who designed these colorways over at Nike, and it could just be the model. Like, I'm not gonna throw it out there. Maybe I don't like the model. Maybe it just has a few things in and of itself that aren't working for my taste. If you guys like the sneaker, great. But for me, it's not really scratching the itch that I have. Now let's go ahead and let's spend a little time talking about last night's game, in particular the fight, the kerfuffle that was happening in last night's game. Because I had finished live streaming, and when I finished live streaming, we were like in the second quarter or something like that. So obviously I was watching the rest of the game. I was doing homework and some design work or whatever. And I noticed, I believe it was in the fourth quarter when all that stuff was happening. I'm like, wait a minute, this is actually extremely entertaining. I love seeing this. I have no idea what's going on because I just saw there was a big brawl. I gotta get out my phone. I gotta start live streaming this ASAP. It was a genius decision because if you guys look at my average views per video, I would say, you know, maybe like after 2 or 3 days, my average views are basically around 200, right? Somewhere around that mark. At one point during the live stream, it was a quick 25-minute live stream. I was rewinding back to all the parts. I was talking about everything. At one point, we had 1,100 people watching the live stream. That is nuts! For me, that was super interesting because when you compare the average number of views I get per video, and then you compare that to the people that were watching my video live, there was a lot of people who were watching my video that just don't know anything about my channel whatsoever. They found out about the live stream or whatever. I guess I used a good title, I had a good thumbnail, whatever, which I ended up rechanging earlier this morning. But I guess it hit all the right marks. It needs to get a decent amount of traffic coming my way. And now when you go back and you look at the video, that video's got over 8,000 views. I think over 8,500. That is just nuts! I don't want you guys going too crazy because I'm not making any revenue off of that video, which I kind of figured anyway because I'm filming a live nationally broadcasted game. So it turns out Bleacher Report is getting all the revenue from that video, but I don't have any strikes on my channel because of it. So as long as that's not the case, I'm good. Like, I'm fine, it's okay. What I do think is good out of all that, because even though I'm not making any money, which wouldn't be that much anyway, it did provide me with a decent amount of exposure. I imagine there's a few people who are interested in my channel now who didn't know I existed before, so that's always a major plus. And also, like, that was a really crazy moment. So I figured, because if I do talk about basketball all the time on this channel, you know, when something like that happens where it's pretty big, you know, we normally don't see fights like this happen in the NBA. At least not to that extent, because something like that, what happened last night, has not happened for a while. But even though there was nothing art related in that live stream, I do felt like it was warranted to go ahead and film that and have it uploaded to the channel because it all fits within the same theme of basketball. And I was going to commentate my thoughts of what was happening during the fight anyway when I was watching it by myself. So I'm like, you know what, I might as well just go ahead and record this so that way anybody who's interested in what I have to say about this, they can kind of see what happened. It's pretty much been a full day since that happened, so we did get some interesting reports as to kind of what was going on there, because the big thing is that Chris Paul said that Rajon Rondo spit in his face when they were kind of up in each other's face. If you are on Instagram or Twitter, or even if you search it on YouTube, you're gonna see videos where it shows when Chris Paul was in Rajon Rondo's face, you saw there was a split second where he did spit back in his face. Let's be real, like, that's like fighting words. You don't do that. That's definitely gonna have a response come out from somebody in which you do that too. So because that did happen, that caused Chris Paul to get really worked up. He then stuck his finger all on Rondo's face, kind of pushed him off a little bit, and that's what started the whole fight. And after those two went at it for a little bit, we saw Ingram come out of the woodworks. I believe he was trying to punch Chris Paul, but because of how everything was kind of moving, he almost ended up punching PJ Tucker instead. And we got some results in terms of suspensions for the whole thing. Now, in the live stream, I had predicted that I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever if I saw Ingram get 5 to 10 games. You know, the NBA is pretty strict on these kind of things. However, I was surprised when I heard the total number of games that were given out because of this. Saw Brandon Ingram get a 4-game suspension, Rajon Rondo get a 3-game suspension, and Chris Paul get 2 games. Now, I think there is a reason why all this worked out the way it did, and I believe it actually makes a lot of sense. So hear me out on this. Reason why Ingram got the brunt of it, why he got 4 games and the other 2 didn't, is because he was already outside of the altercation to begin with. He was already the one that kind of initiated the bad tension. He did push James Harden to begin with. Then he got in the ref's face, kind of pointed at the ref, staring him down, didn't back down. He was already separated from that whole scenario, and then when he saw that those 2 were fighting, when it was Chris Paul and Rajon Rondo, he came all the way from the other side of the court and he came in swinging. So because he was the one who kind of started this whole thing, and then because he was willing to double down and come back swinging, he definitely got the brunt of the suspensions. Now, the actual fight itself was between Chris Paul and Rajon Rondo, so of course they're going to get suspensions. And because Rajon Rondo was the one who really started it by spitting in Chris Paul's face, it makes sense that he would get more suspensions than Chris Paul. Overall, some pretty crazy stuff. It did make the game much more exciting. I wish the Lakers would have won, but oh well, I guess they're 0-2. Let me know what you guys think about the whole thing down in the comment section below. But that's gonna do it for today's video. If you guys enjoy these daily stinker drawing videos and basketball discussions, make sure you hit that like button, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and bounce past that bell to get post notifications. Don't forget to visit KicksArt.com for art sticker stencil needs. Guys, y'all already know that I'm uploading daily content, so with that being said, I will see y'all tomorrow. Yay!